About a couple of things. One, today happens to be my mother's birthday. She transitioned last year. And I had a brother that transitioned in 1999. And I went home to Kansas. My father was in the military. I joined the military myself. And when I was young, I often paid attention to, and we often traveled, been overseas, Germany and everything. And I often noticed a lot of people hurting around the world. And I never really understood at that time why I retained paying attention so much to people hurting and why it bothered me so much. So,
why you were relating to it?
Yeah, just seeing them hurting. And
but more relating to it.
Yes, relating to it.
There is a vibration within you that was rendezvousing with the vibration within them. So you were having a meaningful co-creative experience.
Okay. And so when I was in the Navy, I would go to the movies, and I would not go for entertainment. I would go for information. And I found myself doing this, but at the time I did not understand this. And so I brought both of those together and began to learn, I guess, when it was time for me to begin to understand, to build on what it was that was being shown to me. Well, in 1999, my brother had passed away. And when I went home to Kansas, I had a godmother. I called her Big Mama, and she was in a nursing home. So after we got there, we dealt with everything. And I said, oh, I'm going to go visit my godmother in the nursing home. So I had a lady friend with me, and we went there. And I noticed that there was a lot of people that were standing in the foyer before I walked in. And when I opened the door, I noticed that all eyes turned to me. And I stopped at the door before I even walked in and wondered, why is everybody looking at me? So I walked in, and I walked back to my godmother, seen her, came out, and there's this tall guy, very, very tall guy. And he was looking at me, and he was laughing, and he had a big smile on his face, and he was talking really, 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 really fast. And I told myself, I said, I do not want to be disrespectful to you. Well, I mean, in my mind, I was saying I do not want to be disrespectful to this gentleman, so I will stand right here to see what it is, or listen to what it is that he's trying to ask me. And I just heard you say a few minutes ago to another person that you don't tune people out. Well, at that time, I thought I had tuned them out. But actually what I did was I focused in more on him than everybody else that was causing commotion. And I slowed his voice down to begin to understand what it was that he was asking me. And so what he asked me was, when will you come back to see me? In my mind, I thought, this man does not know that I don't live here. And I'm thinking, how am I going to do this? We begin to walk out. My lady friend says, let's go get them something. I looked at her like she was crazy. I said, I don't have the money to go get them any gifts. And I had an inspiration in me. No, go to the store. So we went to the store. We bought plants, balloons, roses, cards. It took us about an hour. And I said, you know what? I'm going to honor that man's request. I'm going right back over there now. So we went back over there. And when I opened the door, we had all these gifts in our hands. And I said to them, I said, we're back. Everybody looked. We went in, we started handing out gifts. We started giving everything to everybody. I mean, if you had a before picture and after, these people got up and they moved. I remember a lady in the wheelchair. I seen her get out of the wheelchair, take a rose, put it in her mouth, and she did the tango. And I'm sitting here, I'm looking at all of this stuff that's going on. And I thought about this a couple weeks ago. Brings me to the reason why I came up here to ask these questions. I looked at that and I said, whoa. These people have been forgotten about. I said, this love has stopped because these people didn't have no movement at all when I first seen when I first seen them through the glass before I walked in there. But now when I returned back and I gave to them and I showed compassion, I showed love, that they were not getting from anybody else. Because what America and all of this world has been saying, and I believe it to not be the truth, is they say our children are the future. And I say that's a lie, because we have children, we have middle-aged people, we have old people, all of us together come together and move forward in this. And I believe that if we're here learning about vibration, we're here learning about what we need to do, focus in on everything, our thoughts, that we all collectively together around this whole world can bring a vibration in this earth that will change everything that's going on, and it should not have to be.
Well, we want to give you our perspective of what took place that day, because it's one thing to look at it from your physical perspective. Of course, it feels often like that's the perspective that you have to see it from. It's another thing to look at it through the eyes of Source and then understand it in a fuller way. And so that's what we want to give to you now. We also want to set at ease a few false premises that you presented here, and honoring them and understanding how you got to them, but helping you to sort of mold them into a place where they will serve you and others in a more efficient way. And most of all, we want to appreciate with you the experience that you had and show you how some of what you've thought about it since is not exactly the way it was. In other words, in your wanting to understand it, you've sort of filled in some pieces that now, with some other pieces that are coming together as a result of this conversation we've had today, you're going to have greater insight about all of this. So we're just going to begin again with your story, if it's all right with you.
Sure.
So, most significant piece of this conversation that we just had is that you were surrounded by extra strong non-physical energy because of what else was taking place in your life at that time. In other words, the reason that you were back there was a lot of non-physical energy around you. And that non-physical energy, everyone who makes their transition still is aware of you. But at the time that somebody has just made their transition, that light around you is extra strong and extra focused, not because it's being projected in a stronger way, but because your expectation makes it so. In other words, you were in a much stronger receiving mode of non-physical energy than you usually are. Now, you walked into this place where your assumption, and this is part of the flawed premise, your assumption was that they're sort of on their way out and they're forgotten. And while that might be true from one point of view, also something else that is true is that in their togetherness and in their sort of relaxing into the inevitability of where they are often much more in the receptive mode than anybody understands. And you all want to call that dementia. You all want to call that sort of withdrawing, but there is more of a receptive mode. And then you were surrounded by angels, the likes of which they haven't seen in quite a while. Now, the cadre of angels that you brought with you were enhanced because you went to see Big Mama. Big Mama's got those around her all the time. In other words, she hangs out in that vibration. And so you had all these resources with you. So you walk into that environment and you were lighted up in a way that they're not used to seeing. So then you translated that. In other words, this one man said to you, and it was hard for you to hear him, but you were close enough in vibrational alignment of receiving that you knew there was something worth hearing here. So you listened and you heard him say, when will you come back again? In other words, he wasn't talking about your physical presence, and he wasn't talking about balloons and flowers either. He was talking about, when is all of this light that I haven't seen in this sort of concentration, when will you come back to see me again? It was who you were bringing with you. It was the energy that you were bringing with you. So you translated that, as physical beings do, into a very tangible, practical, let's go buy some crap. let's go buy some gifts, let's go present some gifts, where you had already presented the gifts, but then it was your return, and now you're even more in the receptive mode, because it doesn't matter what gift you think you're bringing. You've come bearing gifts. You've come with your heart wide open. You've come in the receptive mode, wide open, and wanting to appreciate these people. You see, this is what we were talking about those glimpses that Esther gets of people being tuned in, and then law of attraction just bringing you together in these meaningful ways. Not meaning that you need to stand on a soapbox and open up centers where people get together and go visit people in situations like this. That's not what that meaningful message was about for you. And we so want you to understand that another one of the flawed premises is that these people have been forgotten. They have not been forgotten. This is the most important part of the things that we're wanting to say to all of you in these days. You could not be less forgotten. Esther was standing one day appreciating something around her physical environment, and then she sat and was sort of sketching it in her notebook a little bit, and she drew a funnel with herself standing at the point of the funnel, and then she thought about all of the things that were leading to this moment in time where she was feeling so good. And she started out with just obvious things, like the things that she and Jerry had done together, and the things that they'd collected, and the business that she was standing in the middle of, and all of the infrastructure that she was now benefiting from. It started there. But then she began thinking about all those that have gone before, her parents and their parents, and everything from trucking lines to freeways to roadways to enterprise to commerce. She found herself feeling appreciation in a heightened fashion for all of the interest that is upon not just her but everyone, you see. And so you're remembering, this is the thing that we so want you to hear, and then we'll figure out how you can soothe this within yourself. No one's been forgotten, because Source doesn't forget, and no one's left out of the remembering, because Source is aware of everyone. And so the question is, who among you is in the receptive mode where you are perceiving the awareness that Source has? In other words, the question is not whether you are blessed or not. The question is whether you are allowing yourself to feel blessed. The question isn't whether you are worthy or not. The question is whether you are allowing yourself to feel worthy, you see. So what you are suggesting is that by you taking your alignment and your worthiness and your blessedness and pointing it specifically at someone, that you might activate within them more of a feeling of being in the receptive mode, and that could be helpful. But we want to say to you, it's going about it in the hard way. As we talk about selfishness, as we talk about service, we want you to understand that everyone is connected to this source energy. Every single one. So then the question must be, well, if they're already connected and some of them aren't letting it in, then what role do I play in being a catalyst that helps them to better let it in? And we say, the answer is not feeling sorry for them, and the answer is not calling them forgotten, and the answer is not trying to fix something that's broken. The answer is feeling the alignment as it flows through you and holding them as your object of attention at the same time. It's acknowledging their blessedness. It's acknowledging their right place, right timeness. And really, it's about not trying to work out their path of least resistance, because you can't. It's about just making sure that you're tending to yours, so that every room you walk into, you're all lighted up. And when you're up, then everybody will get whatever they're able to get from you being all lighted up. Yeah.